Three girls watching TV shows, and some of it's good and some of it blows. And when we finish the movies, yeah, we need a scotch, and we turn to each other and say, what did we just watch? And we're live. Sorry.
No, you're good. You're good.
Hello.
Hello.
Hi. We're
What's
back.
up? We're back after a week break. Sorry about that. The schedules were not aligning correctly, so we decided to take some time off for ourselves.
Sorry
and
to
stuff.
our biggest fans.
Yeah.
We missed a week.
I know some of you guys
we're
were
back.
really,
A little restless,
yeah.
So disappointed.
but we have to do what we have to do.
hmm But we're back now, so that's all that matters.
True, we're back. It's a lovely Sunday afternoon, and we just watched something.
We watched something.
It was part of our
did.
3-part series of like random travel / food shows. But now we're like, maybe no more of those.
I think-
The series
yeah.
is done. I think we've hit.
I'm sorry if
hit
you
what
guys
we
were
need to
really
hit.
into that series, but it's over now.
Yeah, I for sure this was the stopping point for me. This was the show that made me be like, okay, I think we've seen a good range of styles, and this is where I can be happy with not seeing any more.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh boy, what did we watch, Emily?
So what we watched is the Zac Efron sustainability travel show called Down to Earth. It's on Netflix. Feel free to check it out if you're interested. We're gonna talk about it. And we watched the first episode, right, of the series.
Yeah.
And that episode took place in Iceland, which we were excited about because it's a cool place, somewhere we would like to go. So we wanted to find out a little bit more about it. It kind of started off weird. It started off with this kind of montage of different scenes of Iceland, and there was like a pretty creepy voice. I'm not really sure whose voice it was.
It was Zach
talking
imitating
about-
someone else.
Oh God, was it really? I did not.
Yeah.
recognize him at
It
all.
was him imitating David Attenborough, who does all the nature docs and
Okay.
stuff.
Okay,
Yeah.
that makes a lot of sense now because it did not sound like either of them really. But I guess it was
No,
in
it did
between.
not.
Okay, so talking about the force of the universe and things like that. So it's got off to a weird start, very intense start. And then we panned over to Zac Efron standing in some sort of Icelandic landscape, talking about how he's just chilling on Earth. So it was a really quick twist. And then they started talking about what they were actually going to talk about. So they were like, hey, we're here in Iceland. We're starting our new series. They talk about like the purpose of the show. So it's Zac Efron, who we all know and love from the middle school days of High School Musical, and this other guy named Darren, and I did not write down his last name, but his name was Darren.
I don't know either.
And he was some sort of like health and wellness guru. I believe they used the word guru or something.
Yes. I use
Something
guru.
like that, which strange word to choose, but focused on health and wellness. He's been Zac Efron's friend for some time, and Zac and Darren are searching for healthy, sustainable living solutions, and so that's why they're traveling around, looking
that
at
what
like
they're
culture
searching
and
for?
food and energy, all of this. And so they're starting in Iceland for a particular reason, which is that Iceland actually currently has 100% renewable energy powering their electricity, which is pretty cool. I don't know of any other countries that do that. So they harness like steam and water and heat, like geothermal energy. I'm like, Zac Efron did not explain the science of this well, and I'm going to do an even worse
That's
job.
that's basically all he said, honestly.
Yeah.
They harness the elements, is I believe what he said, and create electricity. So that's why they're there, is because Iceland is already like so focused on renewable energy, which is something that they want to learn about and talk about in their show. So then basically the way that the episode works is they go to like a lot of different locations. I think right before we started filming, I counted 9 different locations that they went to over like a 45-minute
Yes,
episode. Maybe?
yeah.
So like it was very packed full. There was a lot going on. And some of these locations were related to like energy and sustainability, and some were just kind of totally out there. Like they went to like a chocolate shop, which I'll talk about, but like it was kind of all over the place. So it was interesting if you really want to learn about Iceland.
And if you
But
really love
definitely,
Zac Efron.
or if you really
Yeah.
love Zac Efron. But a lot going on. So I can, I guess, walk through like the different places they went in the order that they went to them. So the first was what they called a geothermal wellness center, and they met this man named Siggy. Um, and he was talking to them about how he likes to sit in his hot tub at the wellness center and watch the volcano erupt. That's like a fun activity for him. Um, and then they started to talk about how Iceland has a ton of like geothermal activity underground, which is how they get a lot of their renewable energy, which is what they'll talk about later. But here they're just kind of showing like what the land is and what it looks like and how it works. Um, so what they do to kind of demonstrate is this man Siggy shows them how to literally like cook things with the ground, because the sand, like this like black sand that I assume is related to the volcano in the area, is like so hot that like when you dig into it and there's like some water underneath, the water is like literally boiling. So they make this like rye dough and they put it in a pot and they wrap the pot in plastic wrap, and then they bury the pot and some eggs in the sand, and it literally cooks the bread and boils the eggs.
In like 15 minutes.
Yeah, like
Yeah,
in a
really
very short amount
quickly.
of time because it's so hot. And so then they go and they eat like their bread and their eggs and their smoked salmon, like which did not come from the ground.
Yeah.
Just like on a little, they like make a little sandwich and they eat it and they have a great time. It looked really good. It was pretty amazing that they could cook it in the ground. So that was cool. Um, and then they drove to their second location, to again just kind of see like what the, I guess, like geographic like layout of Iceland is, what it looks like, and like how the earth there is very different from like other places. And so they go to this place called the Bridge Between Two Continents, which is essentially just like two different tectonic plates that are both kind of come together right in like South Iceland, I believe. And so they go and like look at, there's literally a bridge over the two tectonic plates, and so they like stand one on the other side and they talk about like the theory of tectonic plates and how they move like 2.5 centimeters apart every year, um, and all of that. So they see that, and then they kind of shift gears and they say, okay, we've shown like, you know, how the land is here and like the different like elements that make it so different from other places, and how there's like a lot of heat in the ground from geothermal activity. And so now they say, okay, so we talked about already how they have renewable energy, so how do they take the heat from the ground and harness it and turn it into electricity? So they go to this facility that does exactly that, that turns like steam into electricity. And so they tour that like really big facility, which is over 3 square miles. And the workers there are telling them about kind of, you know, how it works, and that they have, this is sort of a new technology and method that they developed here that could be used elsewhere to promote renewable energy and limit climate change. And they talk about how initially this method uses like way less CO2, or requires way less CO2 than fossil fuel does. And they have a method to kind of like pipe that back into the ground some way and not harm the environment by doing it. So they talked about those different things that like would really lessen climate change if other areas were to adopt the same practice. And then they totally shift gears again and they do a number of activities that are not at all related to renewable energy. And then they're going to come back to renewable energy. So they go and they have a Viking massage. So they, which involves like getting in really cold water and then really hot water, like two different tubs outside. And then they have like thermotherapy and cryotherapy, which is like involves a massage and like hot stones and cold stones, and it's this whole thing. So like supposed to be good for you. So I guess this is like the focus on wellness, but really like a strong gear shift from talking about renewable energy plants. But okay.
It's also like wellness that's like you have to pay for. Like, it's not wellness that you can do at your house.
Wellness that you have to
Anyway.
go to Iceland for
Yeah.
Yeah.
and pay for. I think this was the one that was like at a Hilton, right?
Yeah, it was at the
the time.
Hilton. The subtle product placement, the brand placement.
Which, like, yeah, I would love to go, but would need this pandemic to end and then also to spend a lot of money. And then their next stop was a chocolate shop / factory. So they toured that facility and they made their own chocolate. I feel like we'll talk about this later, but they make like 24 movie references every single place they go, with like needlessly. So in this place, Zac Efron was making a lot of Charlie and the Chocolate Factory references that just weren't needed. And then they made their own chocolate, but Zac Efron put like everything that they offered him into the chocolate in terms of like toppings, and then it tasted disgusting. So he ended up having to buy their chocolate that they designed to take home to his family because his chocolate was horrible. And then their next stop, they went to go look at a waterfall. So again, this is just like a nice thing to look at, not related to like energy particularly, but I guess back to talking about nature. So it was called the Gullfoss waterfall, and they have a guide who's supposed to like come, who works there, who's supposed to tell them about the waterfall, but he didn't actually know anything. He told them it was 30 meters high and then didn't know anything else. So we didn't learn too much about the waterfall, but it was very pretty. And
It's
they
because it
talked
was
about
his
how
first day.
yeah, it was his first day. I was like, why didn't they send someone who'd been here longer to talk to Zac Efron?
Makes absolutely no sense, but
No.
go off, I guess.
But they did talk about like needing a balance, how like Iceland has, you know, I think 10,000 waterfalls or something like that. And they try to find a balance between like damming some of the waterfalls to produce energy, and then also keeping a lot of them like natural because it's just a beautiful thing to look at. So they talked about that and how this was one that they had chosen to keep like as a natural, beautiful thing rather than using it to create energy, which they've done with other waterfalls. And then we're taking a sharp turn back to renewable energy for one stop, and then we'll turn back. So then they go to an old power station on the river Sog. And so this is a hydro power station. So the other one was like harnessing energy from like geothermal activity in the ground and steam. And this is harnessing energy from water. And so they show, again, they tour this facility and they talk about how hydropower is, I think, 75% of Iceland's electricity. And they show them how the process works. They see how like force can create power, and they see the turbines, and they go underground and see like the cave where like all the water comes in, and just look at how that process works, and make a bunch more movie references. And then again, back to not renewable energy, back to just them doing fun things that have to do with food and culture. So they go to this restaurant called the Dill Restaurant, and the chef is preparing traditional Icelandic dishes for them, which was interesting. So Zac Efron is not a vegetarian, but Darren, the other guy who does the show, is vegan. And so they got like kind of different dishes because I think a lot of like the traditional Icelandic food would involve meat. So he kind of like changed it up for the other guy. But they ate different things like, so, and it was like a very contemporary restaurant. So everything was like plated in a very interesting way. So like the first dish like was basically a plate of leaves, but then like stuck onto the leaves there were like vegetables, and like vegetables wrapped with meat and different things like smoked meat. And then they had for their main course reindeer tartare, which I did not know existed. But that was interesting. It actually like looked kind of good. I don't know, like I've never thought of eating reindeer, but probably try it. But they did talk
Try
about
anything once.
Exactly.
True.
I think so. They talked about how like Iceland preserves like the different species in the area by having like a hunting lottery. So the chef had gotten this reindeer by like getting chosen in the lottery and being allowed to hunt a reindeer, but it's very limited the number that you can hunt so that they keep the population alive. And then for dessert, they had something with rutabaga. I didn't write down like everything else that was in it, but they said it was very delicious. So very like traditional meal. And then this is their last location. So kind of getting back to like the renewable energy piece, but also kind of just a fun place for them to go. So this one was really a blend of both. So they go to this outdoor geothermal spa, which is called the Blue Lagoon, but it's part of this larger concept called Resource Park. And so they meet with the electrical engineer, I think, who came up with the concept for this. And essentially, it's this collective where a bunch of different companies come together, and it's built on harvesting the byproducts from energy plants and using them for other purposes. So it's like kind of that whole concept of not wasting anything. And so they talked about all the different companies that were a part of this. But one of the things was this like Blue Lagoon. And so they were just using this like very mineral rich, like warm water as kind of a tourist attraction. Like people can come and like swim in it. And that's what like Zac Efron and Darren ended up doing. But they also did talk about like the actual healing properties of it. Like they talked about how the reason it was founded in the first place as a place for people to come swim is that somebody who had psoriasis swam in the water, and then like it completely got rid of like his symptoms of psoriasis and his itching. So now that's like actually a treatment that they use in Iceland for psoriasis. Like you can come to this treatment center and like swim in this lagoon. So that was really interesting. And so it's just kind of like a healthy thing for your body, they're saying, to like come swim in this. So that was interesting. And so they ended up obviously going in there and swimming, and that was the end of the episode. And there was a voiceover of Zac Efron just talking about renewable energy and how everyone should be like Iceland and we should all have renewable energy, which is true. But it was very much like those like, I feel like it's a trend in environmental messages that's like it's directed at like the individual almost, which doesn't really make any sense. And I'm sure we'll talk about this more. But it was very much like, oh, well, you should start using renewable energy more and you should be like Iceland. But that was kind of the end message that, you know, we should all think more about sustainability and renewable energy. And obviously the show goes on to have a number of other episodes in other locations. But this was the end of the Iceland piece. So yeah.
Yay.
Thank you, Emily, for
Thanks, friend.
because I literally forgot all of that information, I guess.
Yeah, I don't even think I remember
with you.
It was too much.
Can we start with how disorganized the show is? Like it could not decide what it was.
Let's talk about the foundation.
How the show was.
The foundation of the show. Go ahead.
Yeah, so it seems like they had a lot of ideas, and I feel like if they had chosen one and kind of moved in the direction of just one, like if they had chosen health and wellness, they could have gone in that direction. Or if they chose like energy environmentalism, they could have gone in that direction. Or cuisine, like if they had just chosen one of those routes, then they would have been successful. But the fact that they tried to, and it's not that they can't even like have a fun like pit stop, like if they're doing environmentalism and they like show all these renewable energy resources and then they stop at the chocolate factory for like a fun bit, like that would be fine. But it was the fact that there were so many random bits and none of them were really coherent, and you were like, what is this show about? And then he ends this like the episode with that voiceover, so you're like, okay, I guess it's
a call to action.
Yeah, I guess it's about environmentalism, but it like doesn't play out like that at all, like with how it's structured. So it was really confusing. And I feel like it's kind of like the thing where it's like, don't half-ass a bunch of things, like do one thing really well. And it feels like they just half-assed a bunch of things, so there wasn't like one coherent like thing. And maybe the episodes get better. We were saying we don't know because this was the first episode, so maybe they get better.
And we won't be watching it again, so we will never know if it gets better. Yeah, it's kind of crazy because I definitely think that like you can incorporate food and cuisine and culture into like environmentalism well. It's just they just did not do that well.
Yeah.
Like, I definitely, they could have been like, this food was powered by like all this like turbine energy or whatever. Like, there's ways to like, or like, because I know in the reindeer one, they were talking about like, they like only certain people can hunt for reindeer at a certain time. It's like a lottery. So I guess that was trying to incorporate like environmentalism because you like don't want to overhunt like the reindeer population or something. But I still was like, what it, because that, but that wasn't highlighted in that little blurb, like the food was, and not like how you got the food. Which I think I think they could have worked it a lot better.
Even if they just like reorganized the order of things, because I think for me the like weirdest part was just that they kept jumping around. Like, so they went to the like first energy plant after, like, they told us about like how the land works and everything, and then there was like a very good transition to like, and now we're going to show you how we turn that into energy. And so they went to that energy plant, like the geothermal plant, and then they did like 4 other things that were unrelated and then went to the hydro plant. I'm like, why didn't you do all the renewable energy stuff and then do the food stuff? Like, that
could have been better.
Like, if they wanted to cover everything, which I agree with Emma and Kiana that like they could have picked one, but if they really wanted to cover everything, like have sections or something. I don't know. It was just like very hard to follow, I felt like.
Yeah, or just like they had like some moments where like at the beginning when they're making the rye bread and like cooking the eggs and like the earth, like that was integrated really well. So it was like a little bit of food stuff, but it was more like interesting because it's connected to like the like how you can be one with nature. So I think if he had found like, or if they had found more places and maybe even like like sectioned it maybe differently, but if they had like even connected it, like here's a farm where they grow this, like in just like sustainable, like I don't know. I felt like they could have connected it in such a different way where it like made sense with the overall message, and it just wasn't clicking. I don't know. I agree with Emily too that if they could have like the fun goofy bits where they like get a stone massage or like go make chocolate, but like if they had structured like we'll do the energy and then we're gonna explore the food that like comes from the energy afterwards, and then a couple of bits thrown in between, like that could have made sense. But then they didn't do that. So
yeah, I agree, because I did think, like, on another note, learning about, like, I didn't know that Iceland totally operate on renewable energy. Like, that's really interesting. And so I did like learning about like the different elements of that and how it works. Like, I thought that was really interesting. And then I also thought like kind of the like, I guess, relief bits where they were like doing other things and like just kind of goofing around and looking at food were also valuable, but it was just like overall together it was like too much for one 40-minute episode.
Yeah, I'm assuming that they added the goofy bits into play like that because they didn't want to be like science, 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 and then like goofiness, you know what I mean? Like they wanted to balance.
I mean,
that.
I'll be honest, I was bored. Like I know it was interesting stuff, and it was like it was cool. I feel like some parts that I was like, it was even just like the way they presented the information. Like when the people were telling me, like the people in Iceland were like showing around the plant and stuff, that was cool. But there were also a lot of like random Zac Efron voiceovers where he like attempted to explain like the science stuff, but like didn't really know what he was talking about. So I was like zoning out, and then like when the cool stuff started happening, I was like, oh, I don't even know what we're talking about, because I was not paying attention to the thing that he was talking about before. So I don't know. I was just a little bit bored, if I'm being honest, and I know it's like really important, so I feel shitty saying that, but I was like, not that it's bad. I was just like, oh, I like wouldn't sit down on like a Saturday night and be like I would sit down with like intention. I'd be like, oh, you know what? I want to learn more about renewable energy or like that. Like I'm going to sit and watch an episode for like learning purposes, but I wouldn't be like, time to unwind with this Zac Efron show. Like it's just not for me, but I know it's different for people.
Yeah, I mean, I was reading reviews of the show like while we were watching this because we were trying to figure out what the message of the show was. And it just turned out that everyone had the same opinion of being like, it was a lot. And the message was not there. Like, very muddled and very confusing. And that, like, the science, like, the pseudoscience was just like, is that correct? because he does like his like travel buddy is like a superfood health guru, which is like fine and all. I mean, the fact that he calls himself a guru probably is not fine.
Yeah,
because he's like a white man. So um and like but they had like it was obvious that they were friends, so they had like good banter and stuff, which was nice. But yeah, it's a very forgettable show. Not to like be rude to Zac Efron, because I think Zac Efron's a great actor, but I don't know if I would continue to watch this, Zac. I'm sorry, I'm not that in love with you to continue to watch this.
And you know what? Like, I feel like it was kind of nice to like see him in a different environment, like literally, like he was in a different place, but also just like, I don't know, it's nice to see like a little bit different part of his personality come out, and that was just nice to see, but not enough to where it would compel me to keep watching.
Yeah, it was like, oh, go on.
I was gonna say, I know in a later episode, like I think of something that prompted us to want to watch the show, maybe, I can't remember, but let me know, was that like there's this moment where he like is eating pasta or something, and like is like talking about like how like his body and like food in Hollywood, and like how he had to like get really like in shape for his roles, like was really damaging, and how like he's just happy he can eat what he wants to eat again, and like those moments seem like really powerful, and like I don't know, I wish they had done a better job pulling the audience in, because I know that like was a moment that was really popular and like stuck out, and people were like, oh, this show like is really cool. So I just kind of wish we had seen a little bit more of, I don't know,
I definitely think
we did see some, I'm being a little harsh, we did see some of that, but like I don't know, I know that there's like more good to come, and like you see more of him like in on a deeper level, which is nice. It just,
yeah, maybe because again it's the first episode, so he's not so comfortable to like get so vulnerable quite yet, but like maybe in the later episodes where he feels like particularly like in the moment, he gets a little bit, because I definitely think it was very like some moments he was just like, yeah, okay, so time for the next stop, and like there was like no like sitting there to like wonder or like ponder it. It was just like, okay, so I asked those questions and that is checked off my list, and then we like head over to the next stop. And you're like, I mean, I know travel shows are like this because again they're like traveling a country, so it's gonna be hard to be like to like stop and really think about everything, but he definitely was sounding like sometimes he was just like, yep, time to go and let's keep going, like keep going, guys. I'm not sure, I'm sure that's the direction of the actual like showrunners and stuff, unless that him being like,
yeah, I did say like mid show that it sounded like he had like a note card, and like before in the car he was like, okay, I need to ask these 3 questions, and then like memorized the questions, and then went in and asked the said questions, and then was like, okay, thanks for having me. And it's like, you can talk more, Zac, like you can banter with people.
And to be fair, like that was, it did feel like that mostly for the places where he was like touring an energy plant, and like, to be fair, probably did not know what he was talking about, which like I wouldn't either. So I think that was part of it, was he was like trying to prepare, so he knew like smart questions to ask, which I can totally relate to. But yeah, it did kind of feel like that. And it was like, well, you had banter, like there was more banter with like the chocolate shop owner, or like the restaurant owner, than there was with some of the people at like the renewable energy related places, because I think he just like didn't like maybe have as much to say about it. But I do think that like, you know, as like an actor who like has all this presumably like a lot of money to spend, I do think it's really great that he is using it for this purpose. Like it said that he was a producer, so I'm assuming like he paid for like the creation of this show, or a lot of it. So I do think that's like really cool that he chose to spend his money on this. Obviously, like climate change and renewable energy is a, you know, cause that he cares about. So I think it's great that he created this. Yeah, like it maybe in the other episodes there's like more of a direction to it. But
yeah, no, I like that he has the like willingness to learn about it too, because like you said, you're probably right, like he's like, where do I, like I don't even know what to say here, so like it's kind of nice that he's going in with like an open mind, and like learning a lot more about something he's clearly passionate about. I guess it just felt like awkward. I do think we like if we were to watch a couple more episodes, we probably would change our mind. Like maybe he would settle in because like who knows? And also there are different locations too. So like I don't know. Like maybe just vibes are different, but yeah, no,
he does vibe a lot.
I do think it's good that I think this is a great way to like
I'm just chilling on Earth. So many weird statements like that.
Yeah, they were like it's kind of funny. I think he's like himbo-y. Like
yeah.
He's very like wholesome and kind in like his interactions, but it's also just like a little silly. Like there was this one plant they were going into and they like had a display of like armor and he was like, wow, I wonder what that armor is. It was like a voiceover. He's like looking at the armor. The shot's like him looking at the armor. He's like, wow, I wonder what that is. Guess I'll never know. And we're like, Zach, you could ask them.
There's two people right there that you can
ask them what the armor is. And it was just kind of like there were like a lot of moments like that where I was like, Zach, but it was in like a wholesome way.
There was the voiceover where they were asking the guy at the waterfall a whole bunch of questions and he was like, I have no idea. And Zach was like, does he even work here? Right after we were like, is this a random man that they found in the middle of this waterfall to talk about this? And then they explained it was his first day and we were like, that really just doesn't make any sense to why they picked this guy. Like the reason why it just because they asked him a question about how many liters like is like coming in and out of the waterfall and gallons, and he's like, I actually don't work in gallons, and they're like, oh, okay, so how many liters? And he's like, I have no idea. And you're like, what?
Like you could have just said no.
Yeah, I could have just been like, no, I don't know actually.
But again, if this is his first like week, I feel like I would be so stressed out that I would overstudy and know like way too much information. But that guy was just vibing. He was like,
there was no training. He was just
there was just camera in his face. He was like, I don't know, man. Like, I really don't know what to tell you.
It was also like really shady because they like showed his full face and we're like, wow, this man does not know what he's doing. I'm like, damn.
I know
they're gonna air
by the
that.
time this aired, he had probably been working there and like knew all the answers by then. They just caught him on the wrong day.
Right.
Yeah, he was real nervous. Zac Efron was standing in front of him. He was like, oh no.
I love him in High School Musical. Yeah. I loved him. That was my childhood. I mean, we don't know. Who are we to judge?
Yeah, that is true.
The other segment that we've talked about a little bit is the chocolate making segment. And besides it being like random, it was like kind of fun and silly. And they like go to this chocolate plant and like there's like it's just like I want to go there. Like I just want to like I feel like quarantine's made me realize like things I've never really cared about doing, but like now I'm like discovering that maybe I'd want to do them if I had the chance. Like I feel like going to see like how they would make chocolate would be so interesting. There are these like huge vats of like different chocolate, like a mix-in and like toppings, and it just looked so fun. And I was really wanting to eat the chocolate also. It looked very tasty. And it was fun to watch Zach just throw everything into his chocolate bar.
Yeah, I actually went to the Hershey's factory once with my family, so we saw how Hershey chocolate was made.
That's fun.
But I definitely think it's different than I actually do not remember, which is kind of sad because it wasn't that long ago.
I've been to the Ben & Jerry's factory.
It's I have
Vermont.
too.
Sounds fun.
You know what? I might have been to a chocolate making factory because they have like this in Vermont where my uncle used to live. They have a teddy bear factory. And so they also put chocolate with the bears. So like they had a little thing. Yeah, it's famous. Kareen probably knows about it.
I also went to a chocolate making factory in Ireland, I think. It wasn't a factory. It was like a little town's like chocolate making factory. So I got to taste chocolate there.
That's fun. They had in Cambridge, when I was studying abroad in Cambridge, they had like a make your own bar, like really similar to what they did. And I always was like, okay, before I leave, I need to do that. And then I never did. I just didn't have a chance. But I'm sure they have stuff around here too.
Probably. There's not enough time in the day when you're like overseas to do everything that you want. you also like forget because you're like, oh yeah, I have plenty of time, and then the weekend before you have to leave, you're like, oh no, I didn't do half the things I wanted.
Yeah, but it was fun to watch Zac. Like they basically like had him like mold the chocolate, and then they had like a bunch of items laid out for him to like, and his friend Darren to like put in their chocolate, and Darren was like really meticulous about like the flavors, and Zac was just like, I'm making chocolate, I'm gonna put everything in.
Yeah, he was like, you can't mess up chocolate, and then he ate it, and he was like,
Zac
I messed up the chocolate.
Verbatim, you can't mess up chocolate. And then he was like, oh no.
I messed it up. I done fucked up.
But we were saying, we're like, he should have made like a normal chocolate bar and then made like a random, because they had 3 chocolate bars mold to make. So he could have made like a random one, like, and just like tested it out. But yeah, he definitely like put like raisins, birch salt.
The birch salt really intrigued
me
and confused me. Because I feel like
put it on and then he tasted it and he was like, ew.
Yeah. Like that sounds like it could be good on like a meat. Like you could salt the meat with that. And maybe in moderation in like something sweeter. I don't know. I was interested by that.
That the birch salt is just like, that is it. Like you put that on your chocolate bar and you wouldn't put anything else. Maybe like a nutty flavor. But like after that, you're like, no. You don't combine like the raisins and all the other stuff that he put on that. That's just like, you just eat the birch salt.
It's done. That's it.
The raisins look good too. I probably wouldn't have put them in chocolate, but they looked tasty, like as a snack maybe.
Yeah. Zach's just like eating all the raisins. We should talk about how sometimes they were just like kind of mean to Zac Efron for no reason. Like he's just like vibing and they were just like kind of mean to him. And we're like, this is literally his show. What are you doing?
Literally in the first scene where like, and I just mentioned a little while ago, like how he like told about how he's like happy to be eating carbs again and like not in like that mindset where he can't eat food. That comes in a later episode, but they're like at the place where they're boiling the bread and like cooking the bread and the eggs, and Zach's just like trying some bread, and the cameraman's like, save some for the crew, Zac, and he's like, okay.
He looks so put out.
It was like a whole pot.
Yeah, like he looks so sad. Like like he's like genuinely like, oh, I'm sorry, and then like does not really eat the bread anymore. And also he had like 2 bites, and then the cameraman was like, whoa man, and you're like, calm down, Corey.
Corey, chill out.
It was like,
Corey, he's paying for you. Yeah, it was like a cake of bread.
Yeah, literally.
Like, and then being mean.
And then when they were just tasting the bread at first, and then they they peeled the eggs and they put them on the bread with the smoked salmon and stuff, and then Zac was like, oh no, you guys go. Like you could tell he was clearly affected by what Corey is.
Yes. I'm like, God, like, like I'm sure he's been open about it, so maybe he hasn't. Maybe that was like, and then after that episode where he talks about his food troubles, Corey's like, I'm so sorry, I was addicted to you earlier in the season. I don't know. But Corey, he's paying for your check, so don't be mean to Zac Efron.
Yeah, I feel like Corey was like, it's like that thing that you like say something and you don't mean it to come. I feel like maybe he wasn't that intentioned. He was like, haha, Zac, like I'm gonna make a joke now, and then he's like, whoa, what did I just say? I'm so sorry.
It's one of those things where you say it and then as soon as you finish it, you're like, I'm so sorry I said that. That's just like all the like fat phobia that just came out of my mouth for some reason. I'm so sorry about that.
Zac Efron's like, I'm just trying to eat a piece of rye bread, buddy. Like, I don't really know. What else were they mean to him?
When they pushed him into the wall at that, like,
Darren pushed him
exhibit. So the exhibit at the hydro plant was showing like how you turn force into power, and so it literally was like the Boston Museum of Science. Like it was like, no,
every science museum probably
see how it makes like power to play a video game for 10 minutes or something like that. But there was this wall that I guess you were supposed to like press on, and then it would like show like lights to show that it made energy, or I don't know. But Darren like pushed him into it, and he was like, "Oh," and then he did a Yoda impression or something. Like the force is strong. I don't know.
I'm sorry.
I'm dead at your oh.
He actually was ready for it.
Yeah, he wasn't. He was like, I think he does
like a defensive position.
Yeah, I think
that is what happened. Like you told it accurate.
Yeah, it's just like I like the little But yeah, like
Darren was Darren. Okay,
yeah, I don't know. I don't like Darren.
Unpopular opinion, I thought Darren was hot. I really did. In like a daddy, in like an older man kind of way.
I guess.
Daddy.
I don't love that he's like branded himself as like a wellness guru. I don't think we'd vibe, but like in terms of looks only, I'm into it.
Yeah, I mean, for wellness guru, again, I don't know this man personally, but from what I saw from this one episode, he wasn't like one of those people who's like, what are you doing? Don't eat that because like this, and this, and like, you know, that like explains it a little bit too much. And you're like, I get it. I get that what I'm doing is kind of bad, but like, don't like guilt me like this. He didn't seem like that, which is nice, but I'm not sure.
I don't know. Yeah. The last thing I want to talk about is all the movie references they made.
There were so many.
I think because there were bros. Like legit, I watched this and I was like, I don't know anything about Zac Efron besides like the movie he's been in. He is like a bro. Like he would be a frat bro. like they talk about vibes. He's like, yeah, I'm just like vibing here or like chilling, and then he makes like Lord of the Rings and Charlie and the like Willy Wonka references like throughout the chocolate scene. Like we get it. Like you've seen.
We get that you've seen movies.
Yeah, he was like, time to Oompa Loompa this one or something like that. You're like, what?
They didn't even make sense after that.
Also, one of the plants, didn't they say like, this looks straight out of Jurassic Park, bro? Like,
yeah, and when they were at the hydro plant, they were like, this is like the Bat Cave.
Yeah.
But again, like the Jurassic Park one, it was like dirt and like a white building. That is it. And he was like, wow, this looks like straight up like Jurassic Park. And I'm like what?
Did we watch the same movie?
They made like 4 other references in that same scene. They were like, it looks like Jurassic Park, or it looks like there's going to be aliens, or it looks like Lord of the Rings. And I was like, which one? Like, which one is it? They were like, we've seen several different genres of movie, and they all remind us of this.
We've seen more than one.
They were driving on like a little highway, and he was like, wow, like the scenery is like dope or whatever. Like he was like, this scenery is lit. And it reminds me of like Lord of the Rings. And then they do then Darren does like, what's his name? Smeagol? Like what is
Smeagol.
He does that impression. And we're just like all just in the car, just like okay.
Okay. All right.
And then they continue to reference Lord of the Rings throughout. I'm sure Lord of the Rings was filmed in Iceland, like a little bit
or
of it.
Part of it, yeah, for sure.
I thought it was New Zealand.
Ooh. It's either New Zealand or Iceland, because I think some of Game of Thrones was in Iceland.
Some of Game of Thrones was for sure in Iceland. Where was Lord of the Rings filmed? New Zealand. Entirely in New Zealand.
That's so smart.
Entirely?
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Wow.
We're like, no movement of this location. We will just be filming in New Zealand.
New Zealand has all we need.
Wow, that's great. Why did we look that up again?
Because we were seeing, because he was talking about Lord of the Rings so much. So
oh yeah, okay.
Yeah.
I was like, what?
Yeah, I was like, that's the other side of the earth, Zach. Like, maybe. I
guess
vibe. I don't know. I've never been to either place, but
like this.
Yeah.
But if the world was flat, then yes, he would have to.
True.
Yes, but it's very much northern and southern hemisphere as well.
Is the Earth flat? B.O.B.
No, I
will
guess you can't
answer
do
for
that.
us. Answer for us soon. Should we rate it?
Yeah, we should.
Yeah. I was gonna rate it a 4.5 Zac chocolate bars.
Oh.
Because yes, I thought there were good parts. I definitely think the execution of it was not great, but I definitely think if they just rework it a little bit, it could be a lot better than what it currently is. I also enjoyed Zac Efron because I don't watch him in anything besides the main movies that he's been in. So it was nice to kind of see what I think is an authentic Zac Efron. I'm sure that's not how he actually acts in person, but it seemed kind of real to me, similar to the Selena Gomez cooking show, where I'm like, this seems kind of like how she would act if she was there was no cameras around or anything. And I enjoyed watching it with you guys. Again, I won't watch it by myself, probably. Maybe.
Fair.
I don't know. I doubt it. I am looking for new shows to watch, so maybe I'll just be like, I wonder how episode 2 is, and to see how that goes.
Yeah,
but,
see how it goes. Yeah. Let us know.
But yeah, that is my ranking.
I was gonna give it. I'll be more generous. I'll give it a 6.5 reindeer tartars out of 10.
I feel really mean now.
Because no, so I do I still totally agree that there was too much going on and there were too many things they were trying to say, and so it ended up being a little bit all over the place, and not my first choice of show if I was just choosing from anything. However, I did enjoy it. I thought there were some good moments, and I feel like I learned some things about Iceland and renewable energy, which is cool. And I just appreciate the fact that this was created in the first place. I think it's a cool show, and I'm glad that he made it. And I did enjoy seeing Zac Efron in a different perspective, I guess, than I had before. So
yeah. I think I'm sorry. I think I'm gonna give it a 3 out of 10. It's not that all those things you guys said before are true, but I feel like it was just not interesting for me. It really wasn't. The only thing that I was excited about, if I want to learn about renewable energy, I would want to learn about it in a different way. The way it was presented just wasn't interesting for me, and I wasn't even really paying attention. So it's man, I probably should learn about this, but this wasn't the way for me. But I did like seeing Zac Efron, and I think that if maybe they had organized it a little bit differently, maybe I'd have been more interested or engaged. It wasn't no shade to Zac. It wasn't because of him or his project, because I do think that's a good thing. But it's in terms of my enjoyment and attention span, it's a 3 for me.
Yeah, I mean, I did do work throughout the whole entire time I was watching this, and then at some points I was like, "What's going on?" And Emma and Emily would say, "Oh, I think they're doing this." And I'm like, oh, "Okay," and then I would just go back to doing my work. So that's how much dedication I put into watching the show. So
yeah, I might have it in the back. I would put it on the background if I was doing something that I would need to focus on more, but not for fun, But anyways, I feel bad because it is a nice project. I'm glad he poured his money into that versus something else, but it just wasn't for me.
I mean, they're coming out with a season 2, so it was popular enough to get a season 2, or either he was there will be a season 2 Netflix, and then
I have the funds.
Yeah, literally. Yeah. Well, I mean, good for him.
Yeah, I think it'd be nice to get away from acting, since acting was such a big strain on his mental health. So hopefully this is good for him. Again, I don't know Zac Efron. Oh, we didn't talk about the horrible product placement that was sprinkled throughout this.
There are so many. They were he paid with the Visa card, and it was very zoomed in on the Visa card. They went on TripAdvisor to find the chocolate place. There was just a bunch of they got a massage at the Hilton. It was just so blatant. Yeah. I mean, get your coin, I guess, but
it was just funny because there's some product placement that's subtle that you're is the way they're holding that is natural, but you can still see the product. But there's others where it's just billboards, and they just hang stare at the billboard, and then they just move on, and you're okay, well.
Yeah.
But yeah, I did want to mention that before we we end it because I think it's important.
Yeah. Well, I think this ends our celebrity lifestyle show series.
Yeah, unless there's a
fun.
great one that's better than Selena and Chef. Send it our way, and maybe we'll take a look at it, or maybe we'll watch it on our own time and not record. Because sometimes we do that.
Sometimes. We ranked, when we talked about it earlier, we ranked Selena first, Tucci second, and Zac third out of our series watches. So let us know what you think if you've seen them. You can leave a nice YouTube comment.
Please leave us a nice comment.
And a nice like, comments. And not a dislike. We love likes.
We love likes, and welcome to all our new subscribers, because we have a lot of new subscribers. So welcome. So excited to meet you.
If you came from the Stanley Tucci video, thank you. If you came from the video, thank you again for that.
Yeah, please. So go follow us on Instagram and Twitter and on YouTube and stuff.
Subscribe, comment, like, share it with your friends and homies.
And we'll see you
next time.
This was
what did we just watch?